For the students in the room here who do not know who I am, I'm Mr. Soderback. I'm the director of the College and Career Center here at Vista High School, and this is Career Weeks. And we're on week 2, and today we have Special Agent Wendy Teasdale here from the FBI to talk to you a little bit more about FBI's, what the FBI does and careers, and how you get there necessarily from high school. So I will let you take it over from here.
Thank you. Yep, thank you for inviting me. I do have a PowerPoint presentation. I try to keep it as organized and exhaustive as possible, but you may have questions. Feel free to put them in chat, and then we can try to answer them that way, or at the end, I'm happy to take questions if you want. The FBI is a huge, massive organization, so trying to explain it in about 30 minutes is tough, but I will do my best. As I was introduced, I'm Special Agent. That is one of our positions at the FBI. It's a law enforcement position. I've been doing that about 18 years. Before that, let me push pause. Before that, I was a high school teacher. I taught German at West Hills High School out in Santee. And I went into the application process to be an agent, and then 9/11 occurred. So because of 9/11 and all of the resources that needed to be focused on 9/11, there was a hiring freeze. And as a result, I went over to the police department. So I worked for Chula Vista Police Department for a little over a year. And then I went over to the FBI when hiring resumed. So when I came out of the academy, the FBI Academy back at Quantico, I was sent to a gang task force in Los Angeles. And so I worked gangs for about 3 years. And then I raised my hand to go to counterterrorism. And I worked counterterrorism also in LA for another couple of years. And then I was lucky enough to get back to San Diego, which is where I was born and raised. My husband's also an agent. He's been an agent for over 25 years, working mostly white collar crime and financial crimes. And then I worked counterintelligence for a lot of years. I worked intel, and what that is involved is just talking to a lot of people, getting relationships, getting folks that can provide information to help us pursue our investigations. And then when the recruiting position opened up a couple of years ago, I raised my hand for it. So that's a little bit about me. I do want to talk about our mission. So our mission it's short, but it's really, really, really important. It is to protect the American people and uphold the Constitution of the United States. So that's what drives everything that we do. It drives our organization. It drives the intelligence that we gather. It drives our investigations, the violations that we work. And more importantly, I think it's what keeps all of us there. And I'll tell you in a little bit, there are about 36,000 employees in the FBI, and that is all of our mission. So every single one of us has that mission to move forward. So no matter what's going on in the world or in the country or in the city, that mission is what keeps us moving forward, keeps our heads down, and keeps us doing the important work that we do. I want to show you a video. Now, it's kind of a silly video. It's a compilation of different FBI movies and TV shows. I like to show it because number one, it's kind of funny, and number two, it just shows you all of the what you see in the media, how FBI agents are shown, and I'll talk a little bit about the myths of the FBI. So let me get started on that. Can you hear that okay?
Ford Motor Company presents the FBI, a Quinn Martin production, starring Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. Vigilant, tireless, implacable. The most silent service of the United States in peace or war is the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Gentlemen, ladies, welcome to the FBI.
I'm from the FBI. We're special agents of the FBI. You're under arrest.
I am an FBI agent.
I know, man. Isn't it wild? Follow that gray car. Quick, FBI. Yes, sir. FBI! FBI!
We're official agents of the FBI.
Hello.
FBI, freeze, scumball.
FBI, get your hands up. Up!
All right, I don't think you guys are going to like this trip. FBI.
Well, haven't you heard? Somebody did a little singing to the FBI.
He wasn't too brave that night, but he did put a new word into the English language. Don't shoot, G-Man.
The what? The G-Man. What do you mean, G-Man? The government man. That's what I call him. The G-Man.
That's a swell name for those guys. Say, there's no rule that G-Man can't kiss an old friend goodbye, is there?
Mm-hmm.
Official business, sir, ma'am. Emergency. Please step aside, sir.
Hey, get lost. I'm waiting here, huh?
FBI, you might want to stay out of this, all right, sir? Excuse me, sir, ma'am, please, back off. All right, I need 8 double tall.
You're an FBI fella, ain't you?
What can I do for you?
You FBI ought to get up a posse, scout them woods, and knock some heads together.
Thank you for your thoughts.
I just got a call from the FBI. The 10-year-old daughter of a Chinese diplomat was kidnapped this morning, and they want you on the case.
FBI want me?
That's right.
Hey, listen up. If anybody need me, I'm gonna be working a big case for the FBI.
The Federal Bureau of Investigation continues to be the implacable foe of all enemies of the United States.
Okay, so one of the things I always say that I do as a recruiter is I dismantle myths, because everyone's information tends to come from movies and TV about the FBI. And a lot of that information is inaccurate. So if you watch a TV show that revolves around the FBI, in reality, we do a lot of the things that you see on TV. We don't do them obviously in an hour, and we don't necessarily do them all those tools and techniques in one investigation. FBI is this massive organization. It was established in 1908. It's run by an FBI director. So the FBI director is appointed by the President of the United States. Right now we have Christopher Wray. He's our director. So that's my boss, if you will, many levels up. And there are about 35 to 36,000 employees. Those employees fill a little over 200 different positions. So you've got your special agent, you have your intelligence analyst, but then there are over 200 more positions, and I'll talk a little bit more about what positions those are. We have 56 field offices, and I'll show you a map as to where those are located. And we have 64 international offices. Now, if you think of the FBI, you can think of it as divided into 2 halves. So we have our investigative arm, that's where our agents sit, our intelligence analysts, our surveillance specialists, the folks that drive the investigations. And then, of course, we have a corporate or an administrative side. And those are the folks that make those investigations possible. So they're the ones that get us the money. They provide funding. We have our accountants. They're the ones that make sure that we're following our policies. They're the ones that make sure that we get paid, that we have enough cars, that we can do our job because they provide us those resources. Here are the locations we have field offices in. Those are our locations in the United States and Puerto Rico as well. You can see at the bottom right of the map. So at the top of the map, you won't see offices, but that doesn't mean that we are not there. We do have a presence there as well, but we have satellite offices there. So our field offices are divided up by population. So if you look at places such as Los Angeles, there's such a huge number of folks there, such a big population, that we actually have 9 satellite offices in addition to our main field office in Los Angeles serving that population. So as you get to the top of the map, in states that don't have as high of a population, those areas are served by our resident agencies or our satellite offices. So when you get out of the academy, if you go as a special agent, you go to Quantico, you're going to fill out a list, and you're going to fill it out 1 to 56, and you're going to tell the Bureau where you want to go. And then week 9, you get this little envelope, and it's sealed, and you open it up and you say, I'm going to, and you tell your class where you're going. And you can go to any of those 56 field offices. I want to talk a little bit about careers, because again, the careers that everyone's heard of, they've heard of special agent, they've heard of intelligence analyst, they may have heard of surveillance specialist, maybe forensic accountants, but our careers are vast, because if you think about what we need in order to make an investigation move forward, we need all kinds of different positions. So for example, if you look at my position as a special agent, they give me a phone. So I need someone who can take care of the communications, right? They take care of my phone communications. And they also give me a radio. I have a radio in my car, and I have a handheld radio. So I have electronics technicians that take care of those communications. I also have a car. I mentioned a car, right? So in order to have a car, I have to have mechanics. We have a whole fleet of mechanics that work at all of our field offices. On my squad, so when I used to work investigations, I worked on a squad of intelligence analysts. We had a squad secretary. We had accountants. We have evidence technicians. We have supply technicians. So we have everything on these teams to allow these investigations to move forward. What I want to talk about before I tell you about the different types of positions we have available is that all of our employees carry a top secret security clearance. And I think that surprises a lot of folks. So special agents, intel analysts, our mechanics, our nurse, our computer specialists, everyone has to qualify for and maintain a top secret security clearance. So what that means is when you apply to a position with the FBI, typically our hiring period is anywhere from 6 months to a year. It takes that long for us to go through your background to see if you can be trusted, right? Basically with national security information, and get a top secret security clearance. So they look at your drug history. They look at your criminal history. They look at your financial history, your credit history. They look at your personal and your professional contacts. They'll talk to your neighbors. They'll talk to your parents if that's who you've lived with recently. They'll ask about foreign contacts. Who do you know that are foreign nationals from another country? Do you have ongoing communication with them? Are you traveling to foreign countries? They'll ask about your roommates. They'll ask about spouses when you get older and you actually have spouses. They take a really hard look and they go back 10 years or to your 18th birthday. So if you apply for a job at age 28, they're going to ask you to lay out 10 years of your information. And that's what you'll do in anticipation of getting a job. So here is a list of some of the positions we have. Like I said, we have an automotive department. So at our San Diego office, we have boats, we have SWAT vehicles, we have cars, we have a helicopter, and we have planes. So we need folks who can maintain all of those. We have linguists. So if you think about our investigations, our investigations can involve witnesses, subjects, or victims who speak a number of different languages. So if I have an investigation where I have a Spanish speaker and I need help with Spanish, or I have Mandarin speaker or Russian or Swahili or German or any language, we have linguists both in our offices and back at headquarters who can help us with our investigations. And then the important thing about the linguists is they're not only helping us with the language, they're helping us understand the culture. So sometimes a really good understanding of the culture, where our folks are coming from, whether they're our witnesses or our victims or our subjects, that gives us a lot of really good insight into our cases. We have lawyers. So we've got a whole group of lawyers back at headquarters to make sure that we're following the rules, we're following the laws, we're following the policy. If we have any legal questions, so if I have an investigation, I'm following the law, I'm following our policy. So if I have any questions about my investigation, I'm going to go upstairs to where my executive management sits, and I'm going to talk to our lawyer. So we have in-house counsel, lawyers that sit in our building, and they will help me make decisions as to whether I can move forward in my investigation legally and within our policy. Finance and accounting, I talked about that. So we have accountants that sit on our investigation, in our investigative areas. Those are called forensic accountants. So I might say, hey, I've got an investigation into counterterrorism, and I know a lot of money is being spent. It's being sent to these banks here, it's going to these banks there, and I will have a forensic accountant sit with me and make the decision as to where that money's going, where it's coming from. They follow the money trail. And then of course, we need money to make our investigations happen. So we have accountants on top of that who help support the money, provide the money that we need to move forward. Our intelligence analysts. So this is another position that gets a lot of attention, usually in the media, like in TV and movies. Our intelligence analysts, it's a really professional position. These folks work at headquarters and they work in our field offices. And their jobs are to take the information that we get, raw data, information that just comes from its original sources, and they take a look at it and they say, can it be verified? Is it trustworthy? and where does this intelligence need to go? And then they create products that they send out to the field or to headquarters. So if I'm working counterterrorism or I'm working counterintelligence, I'm getting reports from our intelligence analysts that tell me what information I need to move my investigation forward. They also might tell me what intelligence or information the FBI needs to have a better understanding of criminal or national security threats. We have nurses. We have a nurse that sits in every field office. So they're the ones that make sure, like especially right now with the pandemic, right? They're helping guide our policy as to how to keep our workforce safe. They are the ones that keep track of our vaccinations. So if I'm going to travel abroad as an FBI agent, they're going to help me understand what shots do I need? How do I stay safe when I'm traveling? We have writers. So we have lots of writers who write ads for jobs. They write our training. We have movies that go out throughout the FBI so that we can watch and learn through movies. We have newsletters that go out. So we have writers that work for the FBI. And of course, we have computer specialists, photographers. Our photographers not only take pictures of us so that we can appear on our badges, but they're the ones that are going to go out to a crime scene and help photograph evidence. And then our electronics technicians, they're the ones that help keep our communications secure and moving smoothly. Any questions at this point in chat?
So my question is that may I ask that how does the FBI investigate the urgent events?
That's a good question. And I just realized I'm staring at the folks to my screen because you're on my right. So it probably looks like I'm not actually looking at any of you. How do we investigate urgent events like emergencies? That's a really good question. All of our field offices now have crisis management squads, and that crisis management squad, and I'll talk about these positions later, they are comprised of weapons of mass destruction coordinators, of our bomb techs, of our SWAT team, of our crisis negotiators. So everyone that we would need to help coordinate a response to an emergency or to something that happens in our field office area, they sit on one squad now. And that's actually where I sit now. So we get extra training on how do we respond and how do we coordinate, right? So San Diego has 800 agents. So how do we coordinate 800 agents to respond? We don't want them all showing up to the same scene, right? We have to coordinate that response. So since 9/11, there has been an awful lot of training that goes into how do we respond to these emergencies? How do we coordinate with our local folks, right? Because we have our police officers, our sheriff, all of our state agencies, as well as other federal agencies. So that is something that is always ongoing. We're always getting training with. And so, for example, recently we had an event where someone showed up with a weapon to our office. And so that was an emergency. It didn't sound like a lot. It was just one person, but the reality is someone with a weapon should not be in front of our office. And so that was an opportunity for us to deploy our SWAT team, deploy our crisis negotiators, deploy our response team. And then at the end of the event, we have days worth and hours worth of discussions to say, hey, what did we learn? What could we have done better next time? What did we do well? So that's an ongoing conversation as to how we handle those types of events. That was a good question. Special agent. I want to talk a little bit about special agent, and then I'll talk a little bit about getting positions with the FBI in general after that. Special agent comes up a lot because it's one of those positions that's probably the most well-known position in the FBI. It's the one that carries sort of the most mystique or mystery behind it. It is the only position that requires you to be a certain age. And I get that question a lot. People say, oh, I want to work for the FBI, but I'm 40, or I want to work for the FBI, but I'm 55. And the answer is it doesn't matter unless you want to be a special agent. Special agents have to be hired between 23 and 37 years old. And the reason behind that is, number one, we want you to be at least 23 because we want you to have a college degree. We want you to have some work experience. And the reason you can't be older than 37 is because we have to retire by 57. So Congress has decided they don't want a bunch of old agents running around doing investigations. So in order for me to get a full retirement, I have to work 20 years, but I have to retire by 57. That means I have to come in by 37 so I can work my 20 years. Now, the cool thing about this position makes all of us old people happy is if you've done 20 years of FBI special agent service, you can retire at 50. So if you're 50 years old and you've done 20 years of service, you can retire. So I know when you're in high school, it sounds kind of old, but like my husband just turned 50 and he's got 25 years of service, which means any day, he always says any bad day at this point, he's out the door, he can retire. And that's a really nice benefit to that position.
50 would be a nice time to retire, but some of us are still pretty young at 50.
That's true, but just knowing that you can do it is kind of nice. I'm going to talk about what kind of a college degree you need. So I'll just leave it at this point that you need a college degree to be a special agent. You need 2 years of professional work experience, but 1 year with a master's degree. What is professional work experience? So it's a little bit confusing. Professional work experience is a job that requires a college degree, a job that is full-time, and a job that is salaried. So that could be a teacher, it could be a nurse, it could be a police officer, it could be military. We have veterinarians, we have doctors, we have journalists, we have human resource specialists, we have technical sales folks. We have, if you ask special agents what they did in their first career, you'll get a whole diverse set of answers. You have to have a driver's license, which sounds silly, but the reality is we have to drive, and some of our folks coming from New York don't have driver's licenses. So you have to have a driver's license. And you have to be willing to relocate anywhere in the United States. So you do sign paperwork when you become an agent that says you will move anywhere in the United States. So that map that I showed you, that's all up for grabs. You have to be willing to go to one of those field offices when you graduate from the academy. And then of course you have to pass a physical fitness test. We test you on sit-ups, a 300-meter sprint, push-ups, and a 1.5 mile run. So you have to pass that test to become an agent, and then you have to pass that test while you are an agent. So every year we all take that test. And we're required to do a certain number of sit-ups, push-ups, sprint, and 1.5 mile run. Special agents have different roles and collateral duty. So special agent is just kind of a general position. Right now I'm the recruiter, but they could reorganize things and say, you know what, you're going to work gangs, or you're going to work human trafficking, or you're going to work public corruption. And I can take my duties and the skill set that I have and move those over to any squad. So I could do any of that with all of the things that I've learned as a special agent. There are special roles and collateral duties that you can do as an agent. SWAT team. So our SWAT team members are all special agents, and they are part-time SWAT operators. They train every other Monday, and they deploy on SWAT operations as needed. So if I am writing an ops plan for an arrest warrant. So if I'm going to have an arrest warrant, we're going to go out and arrest someone, and we determine that it is not necessarily a safe situation, that maybe that house has weapons, or that we don't have enough information on that person. When we go to arrest them, we will bring our SWAT team with us. So they are set up, right? They've got all that training, all the tools that they need. This is what they do. They train every Monday on how to safely arrest someone. We have we have a hostage rescue team. Our hostage rescue team is back east. If you think of them kind of like special forces. So their whole job is to, like, if a job is too difficult for SWAT, that's when we call in our hostage rescue team. They work domestically, and they will also deploy with our military. So if our military needs to arrest and bring someone back, that's our job. So we have the arrest powers. We will deploy with our military in other countries to go and secure someone and bring them back. And they're located back on the East Coast. We have tactical medics. So at some point in my career, we got emails saying, hey, who wants to learn to be an EMT, right? Who wants to learn emergency medicine? I was like, that sounds pretty cool. I think I want to do that. So I raised my hand, and they sent me to an EMT course at a college in Los Angeles County. I took that course, I passed it, I did my training. And so our tactical medics deploy with our SWAT team. So every time the SWAT team deploys, we have an ops center. We have a mobile command post, right? So we have a big truck that rolls out. We have folks in there that can help get us information. They make sure our communications are safe. And that's where our tactical medics sit. So if someone gets hurt and we need immediate emergency medical response, we're available. It's where our crisis negotiators sit as well. So you can be an agent and be on the SWAT team. You can also be an agent and be a tactical medic. Crisis negotiators are the folks that, let's say we have an arrest warrant and someone is not going to cooperate. They're not coming out of the house. They're not letting us in. We're afraid that they have weapons. SWAT team will often call for our crisis negotiators first. And we're the ones that get on the bullhorn and we try to talk to them and see if we can get them to safely resolve the situation without using a weapon or without anyone getting hurt. So special agents can be crisis negotiators. We have bomb techs. So folks, most of these guys have, I shouldn't say guys, but most of them tend to be folks from the military. They've got a lot of training, and there are bomb techs. So if we get a bomb threat or some sort of a concern, they're going to roll out. And then our evidence response team. And the evidence response team are specially trained to go to a crime scene or the scene of an event where there's evidence, and they're trained to gather that and to document it. So I could roll out and do it, but I'm not trained the way they are. So they've got all the special tools and techniques to gather the evidence that's just not your typical crowbar laying on the ground, or, you know, they can collect footprints. They can collect things that we can't see with the naked eye. I put asterisks next to that because that's one of the teams that anyone can join. You don't have to be a special agent to join that team. That can be, our nurse can join that team, our photographer can join that team, our squad secretaries can join that team. That's a team that's available for everyone in the FBI. Any questions before I know I talk a lot.
There are some questions in the chat. Let me scroll back here and we can hit on those. One of them from Eduardo was, what are the requirements to join the FBI hostage and rescue team?
So our hostage rescue team is two ways to get in. When you have to be an agent. So when you apply to be an agent, if you have a tactical background, so maybe special forces or SWAT experience through a police agency, you can raise your hand to be on what's called our tactical recruitment program. And that's I call it a pipeline. So it's the fast track pipeline that will get you to the hostage rescue team while you're applying to be an agent. Now, as hostage rescue team openings occur, they will send out emails to every single special agent that says, hey, we have an opening in our hostage rescue team. Are you interested? So even I could apply. I'm not going to get chosen because I have no tactical background really. And I'm certainly, even if I were chosen, would probably not pass the selections. So the HR team does send out emails saying that they have openings available because they're really specialized. They fly particular helicopters. They fly in particular planes. So they're often looking for folks that have a really unique skill set, someone who maybe flew on those helicopters in the military, or someone who led a particular team as a SWAT operator with the police department. So that's how you would get on, but they're typically looking for tactical experience.
Another question I have was from Jerry Gill, which is, are there any jobs that include athletic trainer specialities? So that sounds like more like a training kind of position. I'm sure that might exist maybe at the academy or something like that, or.
Yeah, so in terms of fitness, we do have at our academy, our physical fitness team, if you will, our assessors. They help you train for the physical fitness test. They help keep you in shape. So everyone back at the academy will have a physical fitness instructor, and those folks are typically agents who either have a love for fitness or some sort of background in fitness. And then our field offices as well have physical fitness assessors that support us. And they often also will either have a physical fitness background, maybe in kinesiology, or they were a, what's the term? Drawing a blank, I get it all the time. Physical therapists, right? but they're typically agents. So most of our physical fitness roles are filled by agents.
Luis asks, would you wear equipment during physical fitness? That's a good question. Or did they have, you guys have to be outfitted for that, or how does that work? I guess it depends on your position, right?
Yeah, that is a good question. So in terms of like our physical fitness test, if we're training for that, we're actually in gym shorts, a t-shirt, and running shorts, and that's it. They actually don't allow you to use any other equipment. That being said, like our SWAT team and our hostage rescue team, when they're training, they're typically training in their full gear with their bulletproof vests and their helmets, just so that they're used to wearing those items and working with them. Because if you think about it, when I was a crisis negotiator, this is going to sound silly, but my husband had to dress me the first couple of times because the amount of wires and microphones that I had on me took me a few go rounds before I could figure out how to move in it, right? And you don't want to pull out a pen and then pull out your radio at the same time. And so typically physical fitness, if you're on SWAT or HRT or your crisis negotiator, you might train in that equipment.
Okay, one of the students has a question of, is it true that there are FBI agents in the cameras? What is camera? I'm not sure quite what that means, but.
Well, I don't know if we're talking about like the computer. I think one of the biggest
kind of a myth thing, I would assume.
Yeah, is that do we have capabilities of being, recording video and audio? Yeah, we have all those capabilities. The truth is we have to follow the law and we have to follow our policies in order to do that. And being able to track someone via video or like on your phone or your email, that's one of the toughest techniques that we can get. It requires so much paperwork and so much proof that that's absolutely what they need, because it's intrusive, right? I mean, we're literally intruding upon your privacy. And so in order for us to get the approvals to do that, it has to be absolutely necessary. And it goes up the chain, not only in our own office, but also through all of the legal folks that have to approve that. So do we have the capability? Yes. Are we doing it? No, only when necessary. And we just don't have that many people to do it, even if we wanted to.
Yeah, so surveillance is used for people who are under investigation and an ongoing investigation. There's legal processes in place. It's not just something people do. One of the students asks, do you remember what the push-up and the sit-up requirements are? So physical fitness requirements.
Oh my gosh, I don't know the numbers. So to become an agent, you have to do more push-ups and sit-ups than you do when you're like me, my age, doing that physical fitness test. If you get on our FBIjobs.gov, that email address that's at the bottom, and you go to our special agent career path, there is actually a document that lays out all of the physical fitness requirements. I don't think it's that difficult. I never had a problem passing that test, and I'm not, the most fit person you'll meet. It's a test that you absolutely have to train for. And do the push-ups and the sit-ups. And then we have a YouTube video channel on the FBI does. And if you get on that, there's a really good video on our physical fitness test and what's required of that as well.
And I'm going to go back in the chat here for quite a ways to another question we didn't get to, which was, what made you join the FBI? What was your motivation?
That's a good question, because my answer is never as exciting as it could be. I was a teacher. I was teaching full time, and I had a really good friend. One of my best friends was a CHP officer, and he was a recruiter. And so we would visit, we'd have coffee, and he'd say, you got to meet the FBI recruiter. You've got to meet it. I think you love it. You speak German, you speak some Spanish. Like, this is a great career for you. And so I sat down and I had coffee with the FBI recruiter, and I thought, holy mackerel, I had no idea what this career could be like, right? I mean, just like you guys, I'd only heard of the FBI. I really didn't have any insight. So I put in an application thinking sounded like a pretty good career. And then, like I said, 9/11 occurred. So the FBI that I had applied for was a very different FBI than the one that I entered later. So we were a criminal agency a lot of organized crime, a lot of criminal investigations. And then after 9/11, we turned into more of an intelligence and national security agency.
Noah, did you have another question?
Of course, sir. That I do want to say that what does the FBI have of these certain types of
I feel like I think he's muted. Are you muted, Noah, or is it me?
No, I can't hear him. Maybe he'll type it in for us.
I'm gonna skip. Noah, I want to answer your question. Do we have it?
Yeah, I think he's looking for what kind of tools. Do you have certain type of tools do you guys use? I think that's the question.
Yeah, if you're talking physical tools, we have physical tools, and then we have, technical tools. So our physical tools are very similar to what police officers have. That being said, we don't carry them on a daily basis like police officers would. I've got my handcuffs and my weapon and my vest. We have batons, but we don't tend to be as reactive as police officers, right? The police officers, if something's going on, they're rolling into that in the moment. We tend to be more either proactive or reactive much later. So we have also tools that are designed for more long-term investigations. So for example, I mentioned my husband was an agent. He's a technically trained agent. And so everything that he does has to do with our technical abilities. So whether we're tracking a vehicle or whether we are setting up a camera somewhere, or whether I want to record an interview, and it could be an interview that you've agreed that I can record, or it might be an interview that I have the right to record without you knowing. And so we have all of those technical tools that allow us to do that as well. We have airplanes and helicopters and all kinds of stuff. And then we have a lot of stuff I haven't even heard of, because the truth is, if I don't have a right to know or a need to know, then I don't necessarily know what's going on in terms of tools and techniques. We're big rule followers. We have a lot of policies. And so a lot of these tools and techniques, especially the ones you see on TV, those are reserved for really, really important investigations at a time when we really need to use those tools. If we have a couple minutes, do you have more questions, or I wanted to talk about the frequently asked questions really quickly. Is that good?
Yeah, I think we have time if you want to go over the frequently asked questions, and then we'll get to the rest of the questions.
Yeah. I'll just do this really quickly because a lot of times these questions come up. One of the questions is, do you need a 4-year degree? The vast majority of our jobs now, yes, they are looking for folks with a 4-year college degree. If you're an auto mechanic or an electronics technician, or certain positions that allow specialized experience like a nurse, then you don't have to have that 4-year degree, but it's becoming more and more important as we are hiring folks with that degree. And then I get a big question of which is the best degree to get a job with us. So if you want to be an accountant, you need an accounting degree. If you want to be a computer scientist, you'll need a computer science degree. But if you want to be an agent or an intelligence analyst, surveillance specialist, it does not matter what degree you get. So I always encourage folks to get the degree you're either interested in or the degree you think will get you the best job outside of the FBI. And then I always want to address FBI profiler. We don't actually have profilers in the FBI. We have a behavioral analysis unit, which are staffed by special agents that help us understand the people that we're working with, whether they're victims or witnesses or subjects. But the FBI profiler position actually doesn't exist. And then the competitive edge, a lot of folks will say, okay, what can I do that makes me different than anyone else that's coming into a job? And I say, second languages, military service, law enforcement, accounting, science, those are all critical skills that we're looking at. But the reality is you have to get that top secret background. You have to have that college degree. And so there is no one thing that will make you more competitive than someone else, if that makes sense. So those critical skills, science is really important. Accounting is really important. You want to be a lawyer, you've got military service. Those are all things we will look at. Okay, I'm happy to answer more questions.
So we have one in the chat, which is from Mr. Zendejas here. In what ways does the FBI resemble what is seen in the show Criminal Minds?
Oh my gosh, that's like the one show I haven't watched. That's Mandy Patinkin, I think, isn't it? I don't have an answer because I don't watch that show. What's the premise?
I don't know. Mr. Zendejas, do you want to elaborate on that one?
Well, I think your third note there on the frequently asked questions, can I be a FBI profiler? It does fall under the behavioral analysis unit. So I was just wondering if you had any insight on that. But it's a great show. You should watch it.
I've heard it's really good. I just haven't seen it. One of my former partners, he's since retired, was the closest thing that we have to a profiler. And so he was trained by the behavior analysis unit. He was an agent in the field. And what would happen is I would, for example, maybe come to him and I'd say to the behavioral analysis unit, hey, I have a person that I need to approach. Maybe they're a subject, maybe they have information I need. And I don't think, I got one chance. I got to get in front of them and it needs to be successful. And I'm not entirely sure I can do that. And I would send the behavioral analysis unit all of the information that I have on this person, everything, where they live, who they live with, children, hobbies, everything. And they would provide a report that based on that person's profile, right? That's where profiler comes from. Based on that person's profile, this is the strategy that they recommend. And then I could say, great, I can handle that. No, I can't. I need a colleague to come in. Or, hey, do we have anyone else in the FBI who can approach this person? So we do absolutely use the behavioral analysis unit for that. I've used them quite a bit over the years, but they're often, the vast majority of them are agents sitting in the field like the rest of us who've just raised their hand to do that. And I'd say the vast majority of them don't have a psychology background. They're just good people. They're good at building rapport and engaging with people.
Okay, any other questions? Throw them in the chat here or open your mic, either one. We've only got about a minute or so to go, so I'll take one last question.
I want to say that I don't have any questions right.
Okay, Noah. Thanks for telling me. So, from our teachers here, Mr. Zendejas, Ms. Harris, or Ms. Marks, do you have any other questions here before we go?
Nothing for me, just a comment, thank you so much. I know my students look forward to your presentation and really appreciate you coming and giving them some insight into what it is that you do, because a lot of what they see and hear is from these shows, movies. So it's great to get a fresh perspective and somebody that's tangible that we can actually see and hear from. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Happy.
I just wanted to say ditto to that too. I brought in my ninth graders and I have like a lot of ninth graders that are actually interested in this field. So very exciting. Thank you so much for your time.
You are welcome. It's an amazing career and I've had a great time. It's 18 years. I got a few more years to go and I loved every minute of it, to be honest.
And just curious, what did you teach before you got into the FBI?
I was a German teacher, super employable, super practical.
I appreciate your time. I personally know a couple people who work for the FBI, but I can't ask them questions. So you provided some of the questions I might have asked them.
Oh, good. Glad to hear it.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, teachers. Thank the students. And thank you, Miss Special Agent Wendy Teasdale, for being here this afternoon for our Career Weeks presentation. And if you have students who are interested in the FBI to get a chance, we will have this on video inside of the Vista High Career and College and Career Center page.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. Take care. You have a great afternoon.